This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
There will be spoilers in this episode specifically from the world Sarah J. Maas has created, as well as topics mentioning sex work, physical violence, and substance abuse.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And this week we are talking about the book that nobody wanted, but that everyone has to read. We are talking about Tower of Dawn.
Can we all just agree that just because we don't want to read the appropriate books in the series doesn't mean that we should skip it? Like, I don't give a fuck about Chaol, but the plots... And you know that TikTok where there's this girl where she's like, what scene from a movie or something that makes you just go, women? That's how I feel about this book. The women come out on top the entire time. I'm just like, fuck his shit. I'm so sorry. Grace at Beach Bay Books, she loves Chaol. Like, that's her favorite. And that's her Instagram account. But I don't need Chaol. Give me everybody else. I love the women.
Yeah, Yrene, Nezrin, Hassar, Hafisa, everybody, Forte, they're all just fantastic in this book. And I really love that they shine, and Chaol's kind of, like, he's there and he's important, but he's not.
Like, I get that they say it's his book because he's part of the, part of the OG cast, if you will, from the beginning of the series. But to me, this isn't his book. Like, I feel like that's why they say it's, this is the Chaol story. But this is everybody else's. Like, they're the ones who come out on top. Just like I think of shows like Grey's Anatomy. They've been around for 17 years, but you're not even caring about, like, the main characters anymore. You really like these quote-unquote side characters who just became so strong.
Well, and Yrene, we love Yrene. We know her from Assassin's Blade. She's the assassin and the healer. She's the healer. She's really wonderful. And I love her interaction with Chaol, but I really like her just being a sassy healer and really powerful in her own really special way. And I don't want to give it away. But Jess, I told you to
give it away. You mean for KOA?
No. Well, no. I told you to look at the covers for Inky whatever. Those Throne of Glass.
Yeah, the dust covers.
Yeah.
Right.
And we agreed that the person that is on the cover of KOA, Kingdom of Ash, is not Aelin.
Right. So then it's Yrene.
It is Yrene. Because
so she's just, you already see, like, at the end of not even at the end, like throughout, you see her power, you see her impact, you see that she's, like, yeah, you have all these healers, but she's also the specific healer that has Selba's direct powers, which she's just, this goes back to just women. She is a force. And even I love that we know at the end, okay, so Chaol and Yrene are married. I thought that was sweet. Whatever. I'm a helpless romantic. And I asked you at the beginning, I go, when is he going to realize that she's been talking to Aelin as Celaena? Like, that's the person who's encouraged all these things as he's making these little side comments of, oh, Aelin would love this. Oh, that, she'd be getting a kick out of this. And then he finally sees the handwriting. And I go, finally, maybe this guy isn't as dumb as we think he is. So he finally puts, and I was like, he's like, oh, don't throw this away just yet. I think someone's really going to want to see it. It's just another thing of, oh, and then it also pissed me off with him because he's constantly, like, even in the beginning, he just, like, said she's a monster, said she's a this, said she's a that, even when he has, like, this bitter resentment when he's, like, facing his own demons. I got annoyed because he's the one who's being a piece of crap. He has his own internal demons and he's projecting them onto other people. And look at this. Look at Aelin. You're calling her a monster. You're saying she has consistently always had such a heart of gold. And even when they're like, oh, can you deny that Aelin wouldn't burn the city down or whatever? You know what? Like at no point did he came to her defense to say she absolutely would, but it's not out of malice in a way. Like it's for the people she cares about. And there's a reason to why she has this fury. I think we can all agree that, you know, mess with me, whatever, I'm not going to pop off. But you mess with the people that you love and you care about and the people who you hold so close to you, I tear down the world too.
And it's important to note that Yrene would not have gotten out of the like hotel bar or whatever without Aelin. And now Yrene is with Chaol and they complete each other, whatever. But that is only because of Aelin. So Aelin gave, I mean, you know, there's a lot going on, but like it's because of Aelin that Chaol met Yrene and that she is where she is, and he acknowledges that.
Right. And he sees that chain of that domino effect, not chain of command. He sees the domino effect. He was like, that puts her at this age and this is like, and I think he's also being reflective of all this time when I thought she was this piece of shit 16-year-old, all this time when she was at Endivere, she's just been completely selfless the whole time. And wait till he fucking meets up with everybody and realizes that Aelin isn't Aelin, but it's Lysandra as Aelin.
Oh man, can't even go there. Can't even go there yet. Jesus Christ. Let's talk about the plot, because the plot points in Tower of Dawn directly impact, I mean, pretty much the overarching plot in Throne of Glass. What we learn here makes you think back to all the other books, and then makes you think about what could possibly happen in Kingdom of Ash. So let's talk about first the spiders.
Karen Quee, they're different than the Stygian spiders, because the Stygian spiders are of the north, and then the Karen Quee, I think.
Close enough.
The southern spiders.
There you go.
The southern spiders are oh man, that mind fucked me yesterday. I was up till 4 a.m. I go, I wasn't supposed to be up till 4 a.m. reading this.
Yep. Specifically, Jess said that she would not waste her sleep on Chaol, but
I wasn't.
But you didn't. Yeah, you didn't. You spent your sleep on discovering important plot points, which are, of course, that the Southern Continent spiders are Vogue, and they're Vogue handmaidens to their queen, who is...
Holy shit. Did anybody see that coming?
I don't think so. I don't remember anybody being like, oh, I totally called that, because, like, what?
Which makes sense also why they all congregated in the Southern Continent, because that's where one of the gates were.
Yeah.
We're so used to everything up until this point being in Aurelia that you don't think of the Southern Continent. And it's just like, how is there this whole world and there's nothing on Wendland, there's nothing in like all these other parts, everything's in Aurelia, but now we know. You know, visually, the Southern Continent reminded me of, like, I got Morocco vibes. I don't know why.
No, I get Morocco, like India, kind of.
Yes.
Those kind of vibes. And where Sartak is out with the Rooks, I get like Mongolia vibes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I totally see that, because especially with like the altitude and the climate, and I really like the Rooks.
Yeah, they're great.
I really like them.
They're great. They're great. You know, big birds. You know, it's just cool.
Well, even the describing the scene at the end where they're like, they have this armada, and then you have her son, and then you have the Rooks, and you know that they're gonna go with the Wyverns, and it's gonna be. At first, when I was wrapping up the book this morning, I was thinking, man, I also thought Chaol was gonna die in this book, because everybody keeps saying, like, that's what happens in battle. People are going to die. And I'm like, nobody's died yet, which now I know people are going to freaking be dying, and I'm getting these happily ever afters right now, and everybody's falling in love. And I'm like, this is just going to be ripped away from me. At first I was like, oh, this is going to be like a battle of Hogwarts. And I go, no, this is going to be so much bigger than that. This is so much bigger. This is so much more intense. This isn't just a school. Not that it was just the battle. It was at Hogwarts, but it wasn't for Hogwarts. Like, this is for their world. Oh, this is gonna be like a whole Mordor thing, but more intense.
The stakes are very, very high. And so Maeve, we learned in this book, is the queen of the Volg, and she came through a word gate because she didn't like her husband. I mean, like, fair.
Dramatic.
Yeah, for real.
I don't know. I'm not married. That seems a bit dramatic.
And she styled herself as another queen of the Fae. She ripped into the minds of literally everyone and said, you know, hey, I'm a queen too, and these other queens are my sisters. And everyone believed it, and she like set herself up and gave herself an empire and surrounded herself with healers. It's just wild, because then you think back and you're like, okay, well, you know, Brandon says that she isn't Volg, but that she is too like long-lived, even for the Fae. Like,
he was questioning things already. Right?
Yeah, but he was really adamant. He's like, but she's not Volg. It's like, oh, what the fuck is she then? But he didn't know. And then her power is like a darkness, and we know that from Air of Fire, but we also know that from Empire of Storms, because like on the beach, Aelin is fighting with the fire, and Maeve has like darkness. You know, all the clues were kind of there, but like, I didn't put them together. I was fucking shocked when I read that whole scene in the cave. Like,
well, and after that, like, I kept reading, and she's talking, or I'm sorry, the spider's talking, and this is when I had messaged you, I think, where I go, wait, does this mean the people she has the blood oaths, they think they have these blood oaths to a Fae queen, and now they're blood oathed to a Volg queen. And that just changed. I feel like that's really dicey for KOA when I go into it. I'm so excited, but I'm actually really sad that I'm going into the last book. That's why I really want to prolong it, but the only reason I'm not is because of the podcast.
And also, it's long as hell, so prolonging it doesn't do anyone any favors, because we checked before we started recording. It's 33 hours and 11 minutes on Audible, but it's, you know, close to 1,000 pages, so, like, she big.
I'm just going to hold it. I'm going to hold the book while I'm listening to the book.
That's fair. That's fair. So since we're talking about celebrating women, and we've talked about Yrene, and we've talked about Maeve, so let's talk about Nesryn.
She's a badass. I've loved her since before this book, but I feel like this book is even better. I want to be all over the place with it. I remember when she was realizing that Chaol had feelings for Yrene, and she just realized, she's like, I'm better than this. She's getting hung up on him. Like, she's like, I'm not even second choice. I'm not even third choice. I keep being this rebound for this guy who keeps being hung up on all these, which is also like, I feel like that's part of Chaol's toxic trait. Like, his toxic trait is always liking somebody while he's with somebody else.
Just one of his toxic traits.
One of his toxic traits, yes. I sent you the meme of Hades where he goes, why are you getting worked up over some guy? Like, you are Nesryn Falik. You're gonna let this fucking Matt Donovan of a dude kind of take that away from you? No. And I love that she started falling for Sartok, and it had nothing to do with him being a prince. Like, he showed her kindness. He showed her attention. He just treated her as the person that she was. We later find out that he was like, her skills and who she was as a warrior were the reason he fell in love with her before even meeting her. And, you know, I know we talked about this last episode, but I really do like that everybody's falling in love without sex. Like, I think it's just so sweet, because that doesn't happen anymore, and you're forced to communicate, and they're going through all these crazy experiences and traumas, and they're doing it with each other and together, that it's stuff that only they would understand. And I think that's also really important. I thought it was wild where he's like, well, he tells his dad, he's like, if you don't accept her, that's fine. I don't need to be the heir.
Yeah, he's like, I'll walk. Peace.
Yeah, I love these guys simping over these strong females. But then the other part of me is like, humans are wild. We let our emotions control everything. I can't believe we're just walking away from the kingdom. I mean, but Prince Harry did that with Meghan. He's like, peace, y'all. I don't need this shit. My wife doesn't need this shit. My son doesn't need this shit. Like, I saw my mom go through it. I'm not doing it again. Like, good on Prince Harry.
Sartak, though, man, not only is he super hot, hot, he loves Nesrin. What is her name? Neith's Arrow? Is that it?
Neith's Arrow or something. Yeah. Neith's Arrow, which I don't know where that came from.
It's probably one of the gods. There's 30,
okay.
One of the 36.
Yeah.
I love them. I love the like kind of lifestyle that they have.
And they have like rook leathers. Like, it reminded me of Valyrian leathers. So it was like specific flying, which I mean makes sense for, they're flying, they're in the air, like it's cold up there. Oh, their rook army, cavalry or whatever you want to call it. It reminded me, I don't know, I had these different images and it reminded me of Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie. Just on this, like that whole image, I loved it, especially when the sky turned gold and they're just all flying. I was like, this is fucking awesome. I love it.
It is really cool too how Nesrin, she was like, yeah, it'd be really cool to like be a rook rider. Like, yeah, I'd really like to do that, but I don't have one.
I also really like the sense of, she was like, I'm Rifthold, like born and raised, like that's where my family, I have family from here. They kind of escaped so they can have a different life up on the northern continent in Aurelia. But I really like how she'd tell people like, a synopsis of like a really quick backstory of like, oh, but my family's from here, and everybody would say, welcome home. And she said it was the first time that she's like, she wanted that, and she wanted, like, it was always the southern continent for her. That's what makes her feel like she's home. And I think we all have those moments where you're like, wait, this is where I'm supposed to be. You can live in all these different places, but there's that one place where you're just like, like this feels right. And I love that she planned on staying there regardless after this war, that she knew that. And then it just happens to be that Sartak was like, I like you. I'd like you to stay here too. And now she's going to be a fucking ruler. Like, that was never her goal. That was never what she aspired to, and I thought that was really special, where she goes like, what? Huh? Like, you're heir now? Like, what? How is this? I really like that, because for Sartak, it was never about ruling. It was never about being the heir. You learn about that in their first flight, where he goes, you know what? I can't trust my siblings. Everybody's always out for blood. True trust that, you're good for them until you're not. And there's always something manipulative and calculating, which is why he has his relationship with his rook. He's like, I trust her with my life. And that's the only relationship that I could trust. And why would I want everything else that comes with that? So it was never, for him, it was never about being heir anyway. He's like, I was born into it, but that's why I like my rook friends.
And more women. You've got the Hearth Mothers, who are the rulers. You've got Kadara, his ruck is female. And then you've got Borte, who I really like her.
I like her.
She's like her. Spunky and sassy, and she has a very interesting relationship with her fiance. I like them.
I'm still kind of confused. I mean, I know it's not like a huge plot point right now or ever. It's just part of the story. I don't understand. Like, were they just... one would win one competition, the other would win a competition. Every year they went back and forth till finally that they're like, they're betrothed. That was kind of what I got away from.
I would liken it more to a Jude Carden situation.
Okay.
That kind of vibe. But I love them. I love all of it. what I especially love is Nezrin's fuck you note that she leaves to Chaol. She's like, yo, I'm going. I don't hold you to any promises, and don't you dare hold me to any promises. Like, basically, we're done with a capital D. I really love that. And I love that it got kind of under Chaol's skin. And he keeps saying over and over, like, I'm an asshole.
'Cause he is. He is. I mean, like, good for you in growth and recognition and stuff. But he treated a lot of people really bad. And he was, like, I go back to the Aelin because he was going down in his bitter resentment and saying, I go, but not once. Like, and he recognized that. He goes, she was never wrong in the situation. Like, yeah, we probably handled it. We both handled it with the emotions that we had, but she had never done wrong by me. She didn't do anything with Rowan. She didn't even realize that she loved Rowan the way that she did until I feel like she's always loved him, but I feel like she finally admitted it to herself when he showed up in Rifthold. But Chaol doesn't make that connection because he sees, just like everybody else, saw the connection that both of them had, except the two people of the party involved.
Yeah, Chaol. I really love the setting, obviously. I like the southern continent. I like the kingdoms and everything. But something that I wasn't expecting to like, and I actually do, is, even though it's really creepy, the womb. I like the womb. I would like to go to a spa and go to something similar to that, like a big, open, dark, with bells and bowls and stuff. Like, I think that would be really nice.
Don't they have spas like that?
Not to that. Because I imagine the womb being very tall and, like, huge. You know what I mean? And, like, totally dark with little tinkling bells everywhere, and it's quiet. And I don't know. If anybody knows of a spa that has something like that, hit us up, because I'd like to go. But I really like that. And I like the whole thing with, like, the bells, and she goes to her bell and she rings it, and then she finds her ancestor's bell.
Yeah, I was like, that's the part where I go, why does she have a bell with her name on it? Maybe I just need to reread that part, because I just felt like I was lost. Which, I mean, it brought her to her, like you said, her ancestor's bell, and she just kept ringing it and following the sound. I don't know.
Because it was like, you have to go to where you are scared to go to, and she had, like, darkness in her because she had the grudge against helping Chaol because of everything that he represented, because he was loyal to the king, and then she had to fight her own.
She had to fight her own grudge, just like Chaol was fighting his own grudge. All of that, and I think even the line where she says the darkness belongs to you, and you just kind of have to take ownership of it. I don't know the timeline of her writing this, but that whole scene was just very Ouroboros-y for me. Like, for all I know, like, that inspired the Ouroboros scene.
See, I didn't think that at all. I thought more of Feyre and Rhys when they are sparring, and Rhys cloaks everything in darkness, and, like, Cassian and Azriel take it, and they start sparring, and Rhys tells her, like, don't be afraid of the darkness. There's different kinds of darkness.
Oh.
It can be frightening, or it can be soothing, or it can be peaceful. I thought of that scene, actually. So, I mean, Sarah likes to talk about darkness. We get it. It's cool.
She also likes the word obsidian. I noticed a lot of obsidian this book. And then it just reminded me of all the obsidian in Crescent City. And I'm like, is that the only way we're describing eyes now? Like, if they're not green or blue, they're just obsidian.
Yeah, how many words are there for black?
And I mean, as an author, I guess you're just, and black eyes and the black eye.
Yeah, God knows.
Coal.
It's coal, but coal can be like gray.
Gray.
Coal, black eye. Obsidian's cool. I like obsidian.
Oil slick.
Yeah, that's creepy. That's creepy. Let's talk about a woman that is mentioned kind of off screen, but who is definitely a presence, and that is Miss Lysandra.
I always love Lysandra. I think she's so great.
She's got family now.
She has family. And you know what? Like, she was all about creating her own family, and she's definitely done that with Evangeline and then with the court. Now, what are they called? Like, you know how in ACOTAR there's the inner court? What are these court members? Is there like an actual term for Aelin's court?
It's just the court. So like it's the inner circle in ACOTAR, and here it's like the court. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So I like her found family within the court, and then like Evangeline and all of that. And I think it's really, everyone's gonna have a wake up call when they all come together. Well, shifters come through. I mean, Falcon really saved everybody's asses a few times. Damn. Good on them. It's funny because in the readings they keep saying, oh, shifters are like, they're shifty, they're this, they're that, you can't trust them. And they keep saying all these negative things about shifters, and I'm like, shifters are the only ones who are like you said, they come through every time. It's great the way that they're doing it too. No, for real. It's a huge plot point. Like, obviously we know that Lysandra is Aelin, so it makes you think like, well, what's Falcon gonna do? Because he couldn't shift into a ruck. He could only do like a big wolf, and then he was a spider. So like, what's gonna happen? And I don't know if it threw me off with him shifting into a spider or something, because in my head, these southern spiders are like Aragog from Harry Potter. Like, they're just massive. That's how I have them in my head. So when he shifted into like a southern spider to talk to the spider queen or whatever, I was like, well, how? I thought if he couldn't do a rook, how is he doing a spider? So maybe I don't know the proportion of sizes. It's a good image. Let's talk about something that I thought was really interesting. I was going through TikTok just trying to get into the mindset of this book, because it's hard. I mean, it's Chaol's book. It is what it is. It's very important. We love the women, but like, yeah. Yeah, it took me a full week to read this. Yeah, same. And it's not that I wasn't interested. Like, yes, I liked it. I was into it. It's the last bit of it was really good. It's just like, ugh. But one of the TikToks, and I'll send it to you later, Jess, but it says that it's important to acknowledge that Yrene is the first person to say, I love you, back to Chaol. Nobody else has ever said, like, his dad doesn't say it. Aelin didn't say it. That girl that he was screwing with before everybody didn't say it. Nezrin didn't say it. Dorian has never said it. She's the first one. And I also think it's really important just to acknowledge that Yrene really digs him. Like, she's all in with Chaol. Like, obviously, their lives are tied. They're married, but also, like, magically. I like that she challenges him. It's funny because I feel like sometimes he's just like this old school, just needs, a woman's place is in the kitchen. But he's also like, that would be too boring for him. Every person that he's ever been with, I mean, Aelin, Nezrin, the other girl before Aelin, and now Yrene, like, they're all strong, badass women. I'm trying to think, like, yes, but he was such a dick. He was such a dick to Celaena / Aelin. Oh, yeah, he was. But that, I think, and that could be a growth point, because he really started to dislike her when he realized that she was like a queen, and even more when he realized that she was so powerful with magic, and he was so against that. Like, I just remember specifically him saying, like, where are the checks against you people? Like, ugh, what a dick. But then Yrene is also very powerful in her own right, but then she uses that magic to like heal him and help him like battle his demons or whatever. I don't know. There's something there. I can't put my finger on it, but I guess this goes with the whole growth thing, because all of a sudden magic is acceptable. He's accepting magic. I know we keep saying it's healing powers, but it's magic.
Call it what it is. The Fae bred with humans to keep magic and now we just call it, oh, they're healers. And he accepts it with Yrene, but he wasn't accepting of it with Aelin, but he was kind of accepting it with Dorian, which is why we have our famous quote of you don't get to pick and choose which parts of her to love. And maybe that just that kind of just sticks with Chaol in falling for Yrene too.
Or you could also say that, she has a power that directly benefits him instead of Aelin, who had no power that directly benefited him. In fact, her power fucked his whole life up, which he says when he's going through all of his issues. Like, Aelin and her magic just, she made me throw away my birthright. She made me throw away my morals and values. And
she didn't make you do shit.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly. But then with Yrene, her power directly benefits and heals him and gives him back what he wanted. And also, made him work through his trauma. So I don't know. I still think he's a piece of shit, I think is what I'm saying. I'm happy for him because he makes Yrene happy, and I stan Yrene. I love her.
Yrene.
I love her, and she's obviously very important for the rest of the series. It became quite clear. We haven't talked about this yet, but we're talking about big plot points. Yrene is going to use her power to heal people that have been infected by the Vogue, because she realizes through everything that happened that it's like a parasite, it's an infection, and she can remove that and potentially save all those people. So and that is why
they have 300 healers coming with them now.
Right. And because of the communication in the world, nobody knows the information that they know yet. It's Nesryn, Yrene, Sartak, and Chaol, those are the, Hussar, those are the main forte. They're all coming over there. They all know Maeve is a Vogue queen. The spiders are bad.
That's the other part. But it also, flipping everything, they don't know, where Chaol is talking to Yrene, because Yrene was saying something about Aelin and gods, and Chaol says Aelin has always had a god or two looking over her, and they don't even know the shit that the gods just put her through. And I was just so, they don't even know that. It would be really interesting to go through this again with a tandem read. It would take longer, obviously, in a future reread. But thinking of, this is happening over with Aelin and crew. This is happening on the southern continent. So all this time, it's just a lot of the back and forth of neither party knows what's going on with the other party because of the way communication is. And for safety reasons, they also don't want to have that direct communication for anything to be infiltrated. And then it was just reminding me of the dinner where the Coggins, they were having the Coggan dinner, and Hussar makes the comment of Aelin burning down Elway. And we know that it's Maeve who was setting her up to give that perception to everybody else. They're like, oh, well, what's her power of choice? Fire. So we're going to use that against her to make her people think that she's pillaging these places until they side with her. And Chaol is even thinking, is that I think that is her, but she wouldn't do that. And I feel maybe it was Elway to make him think she might do that, but she wouldn't do it to Elway, because he was there when she saw Nehemia, he was there. And that's why I got so mad in my voice memo to you the other day, or last night, where I go, how is he not defending Aelin? He knows this isn't her. Why is he doubting her? And I'm glad that he kicked himself. He goes, who am I kidding? She wouldn't have done that. I trust her with my life. And I get so angry that he's being a little bitch about it.
If we're talking about communication, it's really important to point out that even though the OG cast in Otterland and, outside Terrace and Skulls Bay, all those people, they don't know what Chaol et al. Knows. But Even when Chaol and the army and everything get over there, Aelin still doesn't know. Like, she's still a prisoner of Maeve. So it's heartbreaking to think everyone's going to be together, but Aelin is still out there.
And she thinks nobody's coming for her.
Right. And that also means that Elide and Lorcan and Gavriel and Rowan also don't know about Maeve because the moving pieces, like pieces are moving together, but also pieces are moving apart. So all of this really vital information is not going to be conveyed in a timely manner. And it,
who's the new Fae guy who blood oathed her, and they were saying that he's so sadistic.
It's like Karn or
Kane. I wanted to say Kane, but he's from the first book. Kern, maybe it's Kern.
Yeah, it's like Cairn. Cairn. I think it's Cairn.
He's somebody who's like, yes, blood oath to the Void Queen, even though he doesn't know that it's a Void Queen. At the end of this book, there's the Fireheart epilogue. And Aelin's, obviously, she's in the Iron Mask. She's in the Iron Tomb. It's all wrapped up in iron chains. And I mean, I guess I'll find out more. But Maeve goes, oh, good, you're up. What? Why does she want her to be up? Like, she's just going to keep you. I don't know. I'm really sad for Aelin. She's just this vessel right now, and she's just how I feel my heart hurts for her right now. She's gonna be so sad, and she came so far. It's like end of year times a million all over again, where she just has to keep telling herself, I'm Aelin, Ash River, Galathinius, Whitethorn, and I am not afraid, even though I'm terrified.
Well, and that brings a good point, because we do get a little bit of Aelin in this book when Hussar is like, well, everybody seems to be joining up with Aelin. I guess I'll throw my lot in too, because of this letter she wrote me that I got 2 weeks ago, Princess to Princess, where she was basically like, bitch, come on.
I love that part, but I'm also annoyed with her because you didn't want to tell anybody. You just wanted to keep, I mean, she's very much a puppeteer. She's very manipulative. She always wants a show. Everything needs to be centered around her. I can't wait. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. We probably won't see a lot of it, but good. I'm glad the siblings are stepping up, and there's just like this unwritten rule at this point that there isn't going to be any undermining or killing of other siblings.
That brings us to the photo that you sent me, Jess, of your like mouth open when you realized who had killed the sister in the start of, and
Duva,
the pregnant one. She was the pregnant one. Like she did all the shit. That was very interesting, and it was someone that I did not expect. Obviously, who expects that?
I told you, and you said because you know how I get. I start guessing, and then I go down the rabbit hole of guessing, and then you just say, stop, you're doing it again. And
because it's wrong, because a lot of the time it's wrong.
I know. But I thought it was Yafiza. I got to a point where I was like, I bet you it's Yafiza. Like, she's just been, I really did. Was not expecting it to be Duva. Even when they came back from the desert and the room was trashed. And then I was like, maybe it's just trashed and the stuff isn't taken. And then the stuff was taken. I go, oh my gosh, it really was Yafiza. I was just throwing it out there, but now it really is. I was all over the place.
Yeah, and then I was thinking, and I didn't say anything when she told me this. I was thinking, like, what, this old ass lady hauled her ass all the way
I don't know how healers work. Can healers heal themselves? Maybe it's a gimmick. That's, people do it all the time.
When we go back to that big scene, like in the like catacombs or whatever, in the library, whatever, with Duva, and she reveals everything, and Chaol gets re-paralyzed.
He literally got his back blown out, and not a sexy way.
Yeah, like, damn.
I was like...
And it was like 10 times worse than it was before. But I really appreciate Yrene. Her first thought is like, fuck all that work.
I know. She's like, oh man, I gotta start from scratch again.
Yeah, she's like, she's like, all this hard work, all this effort just down the fucking drain. And then she's like, oh, I hope he's okay. Shit. I thought that was really funny and like kind of realistic because she's like, God, this whole time.
But I think that's a testament to Irene's character too. Like the whole, because they would say, you know, in the beginning of the book, you think that, oh, you're going to go to the Torre to study? And she goes, ha ha ha, yeah. And she goes, well, how else do you think I got to where I was?
Fuck you, dude. Ugh. But that whole scene with all the healers like touching each other and like channeling and the magic, and then, you know, he's healed. And it's important to mention that when he's healed, all of him is healed. So the scar on his cheek is also gone.
And she made it a point to, she was like, the scar that was once there is like unmarked or unmarred or something.
Right. That is an important just tidbit to keep in mind going into KOA, and it becomes very clear what that is. But it's really important that, so he's like wiped clean, you know, pretty much like it's really, yeah, it's like representative of all his trauma. It's gone.
Oh.
And I think also, I mean, obviously Chaol is better, but he is fine with, you know, tying his life force. I mean, he's not fine that Yrene tied her life force to him, but he accepts it, and he accepts that he will have to use the chair and the cane, and, you know, when she is drained or whatever. And he says, you know, I'm not less of a man in the chair. I'm the same person in the chair as I am standing. So it doesn't matter.
But it took for his growth prior to all of this for him to come to that conclusion, because I feel like it was really important for like when he was finally healed and they both went through like their own demons to like come out and, you know, to be like, look, yes, there's these dark parts. You can't let it consume you, blah, blah, blah. And she had already said, like, he had said, like, I loved you at this point. You saw me for the person that I was, not of my injury, blah, blah, blah. And she had recognized that too, that she, you know, cared for him for the person that he was and the personality, and understood that he had struggles. And she was very empathetic too through his growth, because even when he was saying those awful things to her in their fight prior to her standing, and her, like, when you flip over to her point of view real quick, and she's even saying, like, this isn't him talking. This is the stress. This is his hurt. This is coming from a place of anger. And, you know, I thought that was very mature of her. And I mean, I guess this comes from being like a healer and having those spiritual powers and having like the spirituality connection that she does, to understand that it wasn't directed at her. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that you hear those words and they might ping at you a bit, but she goes, I can't take them to heart. You have to take them with a grain of salt right now, because this is not the person that I know. I think that was also pretty important. And I do like them together. I do like them together. He might not be my favorite person. I like her. She's happy. I mean, she's enamored with him. I think that's something so sweet and so lovely. And that's just one thing that so far that I've seen in my experience with Sarah's final pairings, I'll say, that I do like the matches that she's having. It makes sense, I guess, when you break it down.
I want to talk about Dorian for a second. I want to talk about Chaol looking at all the naked dancers and all the drugs at that party and being like, yo, Dorian would fucking love this.
And then something else happens, or somebody else comes out and he goes, and Aelin too.
Like, they'd be all over this, yeah. Which I think, and the way that he says that, I think the friendship, and I said this to you the other day, the friendship between Dorian and Aelin is something that isn't really talked about, but I really enjoy their friendship. And I think Chaol kind of made the connection too. And just, you know, with all these naked people doing drugs in front of him, he's like, yo, these people would dig this.
Yeah. I liked Dorian and Aelin together as a couple when they were a couple. I did like that. I love that he brought her candy. And then when she was on her period, he's like, here's some more candy. Like, let me play cards with you. Which also, now that we know, like, Dorian playing cards with her instead, like, that Sam never got to teach her. That's also so sweet. they're good wherever they are at life. Like they might butt heads because they are very similar people. But they're good to have in each other's lives because they're understanding their powers together, they're learning together, they're taking over their kingdoms together, which is like you find that out at the end of Queen of Shadows, where he's like, we're supposed to be enemies, and she goes, why? Like, new dawn, new day, like it's us. Like you, and just like into the, and you know, at the end of Queen of Shadows and then into Empire Storms, they're like rallying together and they're like, you play good cop, I play bad cop. I really like them. I do like their friendship, and it's not, maybe I haven't seen it yet, but it isn't focused a lot, or like you don't see it really mentioned in, I haven't yet seen that friendship connection where people are making or like doing TikToks about them and stuff, except that one you sent me where Aelin's like partying and then Dorian's partying and Chaol's just, you know, standing in the corner like, what the fuck? These are my friends.
TikTok will open its doors to you when you finally finish Kingdom of Ash.
I cannot wait to like just be in everything and not have to go through like fly past things. And that's like on Instagram, that's on TikTok. I mean, oh goodness, I hope my poor work, I cannot have it suffer, because now I'll have more things to go down the rabbit hole. Then I'll finally be able to go on Tumblr and start like looking at things again. It's all so good.
Circling back to Dorian, there's a point that I wanted to bring up that maybe isn't obvious. So Chaol ends up with a healer, and Dorian, his life fell apart after a healer was murdered right in front of him. So it's kind of like a full circle kind of situation, because you have to think. No, I've read Kingdom of Ash. I'm doing this for Jess's benefit. You have to
wait. Are you rereading it with me or no?
Yeah, I have to. I've only read it all the way through once, just like Empire of Storm. So I have to do it. I'm actually going to start, I think, tomorrow. So you have to think like everyone's going to meet up at some point, right? So like Dorian is going to have to see Chaol with this like healer that he's totally in love with, and like what a moment. I can only. Yeah, it's one of those things.
I was already thinking like he got married without his best friend there. That was
yeah.
But also like times. These are the times.
And Dorian is also a sex god fucking a witch. Like they are different now.
I'm so glad that everybody, when I had like a reaction video on TikTok and somebody goes, yeah, that's Daddy Phantom Hands. I go, I love that name. They go, no. And then you even said, no, that's his name. Okay. Yes, please. All about it. I sent you, I go, here are my emojis when I'm talking about Dorian moving forward.
Yeah.
Sexy.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
And I know he's your Throne of Glass book boyfriend. I don't know if I have a Throne of Glass. I'm kind of worried, because I love Rowan. It's obviously, it would be Rowan through and through, but I also love Rowan for Aelin. Whereas with Rhys, I was like, I like Rhys with Feyre, but I like Rhys with me better. What if it's Lorcan? Maybe it's not even, maybe I don't have a book boyfriend. Maybe it's Lysandra and we're just going to be best friends forever.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's also, you bring up a really good point. So people say, you know, like Rowan is my book boyfriend in Throne of Glass, or it's Dorian. But it's also like, you know, I wouldn't want to separate Rowan and Aelin, and I wouldn't want to separate Dorian and Manon. So we're just going to be a throuple, and that's what it is.
It'll be like, you know how Rhys is like, I'll take whatever part of you I can get in the end scene, basically. That's how I would be with Throne of Glass. I'll take whatever part of you I could get. I saw this, you know, it's funny. I don't know. I saw this, so maybe it was part of the somebody's Instagram live or story. They were asking, do you think Aedion asks Lysandra to shift into a guy from time to time?
Absolutely, he does. He said that he likes,
I know he's
like
men. Open about it.
So, yeah. I mean, of course. Like, why? Why? If you had that capability, why wouldn't you? If you're already into it, like.
I love that he accepts Lysandra any part of her, like no matter her form. Like he loves her, even though I know you're not like an Aedion fan.
Well, it is what it is. You'll get there.
I'm not even there. We have one book left. Oh, God.
So when we're talking about, like book boyfriends and who you would and wouldn't separate, Throne of Glass is very difficult because you love all these couples that are together. And, as I said, people are like, I would just like to be part of that pairing. Yeah. And then, as you said, going to ACOTAR, it's like, I would happily push Feyre out for Rhys. I don't need a throuple situation there.
No.
But you could never do that with Aelin. I think, and it's just... It just shows that the characters are different.
I always know, like, how in some polyamorous relationships, and I think you've talked about it a lot with Shadowhunters, there is a equal opportunity across all boards with the dynamic within the relationship. I would go into the Rowan-Aelin relationship fully aware that I am taking a back seat the entire time.
And being fine with it.
I'd be fine with it. I would be like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit here. Just like whatever.
You can include me whenever you feel ready.
Whenever
I love y'all. Yeah. I feel that way with Rowan and Aelin, but I feel more that way with Dorian and Manon just because they're my favorite. But like, ooh, hot.
They are hot. I wouldn't necessarily want to be in a throuple with them, but I'll definitely be part of a three-way. Definitely. Oh, yeah.
That makes me think there's the line that says from, I don't even remember which one of them, where Manon says that she sleeps naked. And then Chaol also kind of throws it out in this book that he usually like sleeps naked too. I was just like, really? I didn't expect that from you.
No, not from Chaol. And I also... I think sometimes these relationships are so funny, like just like the dynamics of everybody, because he goes, oh yeah, I don't sleep with clothes on. And then something about like Yrene walks in on him and Nesrin and Chaol were just like up talking all night and basically saying like, this is it. Like we're going to go our separate ways, whatever. But Yrene walks in and she doesn't know this. And here he's like, oh yeah, like I just sleep naked with my friend next to me. What? I have guy friends. Not one would I be like, oh yeah, totally don't sleep with your clothes on next to me. That's fine.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a little weird. It's a little bit of an exhibitionist from Chaol that we weren't expecting because he's so fucking bland.
Well, even with him being flirty, even with like some of his flirt, and he's very vanilla. We know this. Like you cannot tell me otherwise, which is, fine, good for you, teach their own. But he's very vanilla. And like, even when he goes, oh, I'll race you when they're on the horses in the desert to Yrene. And she's like, what's the prize? He's like, if I win, I get to pick, he's like a kiss. Wherever and whenever and wherever. And she goes, what do you mean wherever? Like, oh, honey.
Oh, like, yeah, sweet thing. sweet thing. And she also says like she's only had sex one other time before. Yeah. So
and she's like, it was nothing. And she was like, which also, whose first time?
Yeah, is like, anything to write home about?
I mean, I remember my first time. It was when we were at Stetson, and I go, I don't get the big deal. And my other friend Laura, she goes, you will.
Takes a little bit of time. I feel bad for Yrene in a way because but she really loves Chaol, and I have to think that he blew her back out in the tent. Right? Like,
no, but she says that. I mean, she doesn't say those words exactly, but she says like it was throughout the night, and then he was like consistently focusing on her pleasure first before he ever had any, which good on Chaol. Like that I really wasn't expecting, just because it's Chaol. But good on him that he made sure that she was good before and then they would go at it again. Also, like, good on Yrene's magic powers that his lower back was lasting as long as it did.
And, they had pool sex or like tub sex or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure.
I think it was, in my head, it's just you know how you have those giant tubs that you can walk in?
Like a sunken tub? Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a personal one in his like ensuite kind of thing.
And we know they were fucking in there.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
And everywhere. Because even the caretaker comes in and she's like, yeah, and Yrene was too into it. She's like, I don't even have time to be embarrassed.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I'm all for it. But like, fine, just whatever, fine. And they're married and they're both happy and they're going to go win this war. They did everything.
I know they're going to win the war. You don't write a book series and don't win the war. But
you just don't know.
Holy hell, I don't know how it's just going to play out.
Yeah. Ooh, damn. You have toxic in your notes.
Wherever I'm at in the book, I'm always screaming at Chaol at the end of the day. Like, this piece of shit. And then, like, at the end, I'm like, okay, well, you kind of redeemed yourself, so I don't know if I spoke too soon. But that doesn't negate his actions in the past. But what did I say? I said, oh, when Chaol and Yrene were fighting, when he was right before he like stood up, he goes, I know someone who went through the same thing as you. And you know what she did? She hunted them down. And what have you ever done? And I was so fucking pissed. Like, how dare you? You want to point fingers at people and you want to judge people? What have you actually fucking done? Like, I was so pissed. I mean, granted, you could say like, yeah, he took the brute power from to give Aelin some time to get away, which is also a reoccurring theme in all of these Sarah books. Everybody's always like, I'm just going to buy you a couple seconds of time. And that just keeps happening. But he just says the meanest things, and it's to the people he cares about, that he likes. He's just so volatile. And I understand that as somebody who can have a razor sharp tongue, and I've definitely curbed that, because I've said, like, I'll know your weakness and I'll gut you for it, like verbally, and I'll say some really cruel things. And I've said, like, I'm very, in that in that regard, I'm very much my father's daughter, and I don't like the person my father is. So I really wanted to change that, and I've been mindful about that. But I feel like Chaol's the toxic boyfriend where he does those toxic things, and then he has these other really good redeeming qualities, and all of a sudden you forget all the toxic shit. And that's what bothers me, or what bothers me is that people want to point fingers at Rhys saying he's toxic, but nobody wants to point fingers at like the quote unquote nice guy. That's where I feel like a lot of people see Chaol, because he's just like a regular human. So he's the nice guy. And no, that's not the case.
Well, he's so judgy. As a nice guy, he's so judgy, and he's judgy of everybody that's like more powerful than him. And let's point out, the things that he's throwing at Yrene, like, I knew this other person, are the things that he judged Aelin for. Those were like negatives when he's thinking about Aelin, and then he's taking those and throwing them at Yrene. Like, what is wrong with you? It's just shitty. I don't know. People really like Chaol for some reason. I just don't.
I understand that a lot of people like him up until this book. Is this the book that seals the deal for a lot of people?
I don't know because like. No, because people don't like him. He's just so boring and bland compared to everybody else.
Well, maybe that's why people like him, because realistically it's attainable.
I don't know. You could say that's the same reason why people defend and like Feyre so much.
Well, yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I know a lot of people relate to Feyre. They're like, you know what, maybe she's not Brace, maybe she's not Aelin, but she's very much a person that you can relate with because you share similar traumas or similar experiences, or she's just a regular person off the street too.
Yeah, I don't know. To be really honest, I don't think about Chaol very much at all. There's so many other more interesting, more dynamic characters and relationships that I just don't give a single fuck about him. And this is like, I know what happens. I've read Kingdom of Ash. Like, I know where it's going. I still just don't give a single fuck about him. As I said, I like Yrene. That's about as much of a fuck as I give. I think I put up with Chaol because I know that he's important to Dorian. And I love Dorian, you know, would do anything for Dorian.
I just can't unsee every time that Chaol has this flashback of like, oh, Dorian, or oh, like anytime the word Dorian comes out of his mouth or he's thinking about it, I just keep thinking of Brokeback Mountain, and they just go, I can't quit you. Like, he's just, I know he's married now. That doesn't stop anybody from like having thoughts of other people. I know. And Dorian's just like you said, a sex god. So he's, even if / probably him and Chaol did hook up, like Dorian's past it. It was like, okay, cool, on to the next. And like Chaol is still hung up on it. It's because Dorian's that good.
Yeah, I mean, let's be very clear. And this was before Dorian had his phantom hands. I mean, can you imagine?
He just like leveled up with the phantom hands. That's really all he did. He's like, oh, this is going to come in handy. No,
it's that TikTok sound, or TikTok that
which one?
The one that says, you know, this man got 10 times hotter when his life fell apart. That is accurate as hell.
Oh man, I'm not supposed to lie. See, this is stuff I shouldn't be regressing. That should be like, you like toxic, damaged people. Toxic and damaged are different. Okay, I remember we had that conversation. Yeah. Yes, we've had this conversation. You know what? Okay, I'll take that back. We definitely want a damaged guy. We don't want a toxic guy, but we want a damaged guy.
Yeah, they're more interesting. They're more interesting and canonically hotter. That's just how it is. You know, I don't make the rules. I don't write the books.
You already know how I get like flustered with Dorian Manon scenes, like with Aelin and Rowan. I'm just like, like hard eyes the whole time. I'm just like, I'm so happy for them. I love them. Like, this is such a special moment. I cannot wait till their reunion, and they're just going to be like, all like mushed and loved together, and like mind, body, soul. But Dorian Manon is just hot, like all over it. Please tell me there's more of that in Kingdom of Ash. If there's like, is there at least like one scene? It doesn't have to be like a whole, okay. I don't need the whole, obviously I don't need the whole book to be steamy, but I want another Dorian Manon scene.
There's a throwaway line between them that I just think is hysterical, and I'll point it out just to make sure that you also find it hysterical. But you're just
I'll probably say it to you at some point. You're gonna be like, "That's the line."
Yeah, you're just like, "Oh, okay," and then that's it. Yeah, you're just like, "Good on ya, good on ya." So we finished Tower of Dawn. We have the very painful Fireheart epilogue. Going forward in Kingdom of Ash, what are your expectations?
Tears.
I mean, utter and complete devastation and heartbreak, of course.
I know before I asked you, I go, it's not that I'm prolonging putting off Kingdom of Ash. I'm prolonging the heartache that I will inevitably go through. I even told you I went to schedule my lash appointment around when I'm going to be finishing this book. I was like, well, I can't cry for 48 hours. So where does that put me? But I mean, like I said, you said before we started this episode, I'm going to cry 3 times. You know for a fact I'll cry 3 times. And then I said, okay, well, if that's at least 3, you said I was only going to cry once during Crescent City. And I cried throughout the whole fucking thing. So, I mean, I'll expect tears. I expect them to win. I expect everybody, obviously, they're going to share all their information. I know they're going to win. It's just like how everything is going to play out, which I don't know. I know they're going to defeat Maeve. I know they're going to defeat Erewhon. I know there's going to be a lot of deaths. I don't know who's going to die. I don't even want to think about it. Okay, like I could think about Chaol dying, but then Yrene dies. Oh, I don't know. maybe her son could die. She could die.
So you're expecting death. You're expecting a heartbreak. You're expecting the tears. She's a big book. There's a lot there. We know all of the plot up until now. We know who's who and, all the moving pieces. We just don't know how it's going to shake out. It's very exciting. I'm excited for you to finish this series and then sit back and kind of digest it, because where you start in Throne of Glass and where you end in Kingdom of Ash are just different. It's so different. And you know what really pisses me off? My TikTok algorithm is really skewed, and there are so many people that read Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight and then stop.
But that's like it doesn't pick up till after Crown of Midnight, and I feel like, yes, I understood that they were slow. I pitched the whole trilogy to my friend, and he said he's going to pick it up. I actually texted him last night and I go, please don't hate me. And he goes, why? And I said, when you're caught up with ACOTAR and you're finished Crescent City, I have another series for you to start, especially knowing how much he loved ACOWAR. And he goes, how dare you make recommendations based on something I like? How dare you? I was like, oh, well, this is an easy sell. I already started telling him about Throne of Glass. I was like, oh, well, there's this assassin and she's picked by the king and it's like this whole thing. So I know he's going to struggle with Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight because he struggled with ACOTAR and ACOMAF. But Crown of Midnight is where I started crying. The first book I started crying, not because it was sad. I think I was just, at that time, it was like Chaol was being selfless, sending him to what I thought was her family with Maeve. And it was just so much bigger picture that's where I started connecting everything. I go, oh my God, this is going to be huge. That was the kickoff for me. So I don't understand how people can finish Crown of Midnight and not make that connection, especially once we find out the reveal is Celaena.
Yeah.
How do you not say, oh, I need to keep finding out what's going on?
And then immediately just go into the next book. That's part of it too. I don't know. The reveal at the end is really good. And then I can understand at that point not going back to Assassin's Blade because you really want to get into, Heir of Fire and everything that's happening. I get that, but I just don't understand how people put down Crown of Midnight and say, this sucks. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But,
No, I feel like Crown of Midnight was exactly what I go, like I said, I was like this, how are you not hooked? Then you go into Assassin's Blade, which I still like that order because you can have an appreciation of the series as a whole all together. I think there's just a lot right there, especially if you go into Assassin's Blade and then to try to reread books 1 and 2 knowing the whole time Celaena's Aelin.
I'm excited, years down the road when you sit and reread all of this, it's really powerful. And especially, and I know we've said it before, the books just get better. I think that's pretty clear. Tower of Dawn, you could go either way, but the plot points that are revealed are fantastic. And of course, Empire of Storms, we know, is wonderful, painful, but wonderful.
I still even find it happening now because I'll be doing something or I'm reading something in this book and then I make a connection to Heir of Fire, or then I'm reading this book and I'm making a connection from 3-4 books ago. Everything, it just kind of, you go, wait a second, a light bulb comes on again and again, and it's so good. It's such a good series. And to be a writer, and to have, it's one thing to be a writer and people tell great stories. And this is a whole different level. This is just to have all these concepts and to create this realm of fantasy is amazing.
And I'm just thinking that you hadn't
You're gonna call me out.
No, this journey into fantasy is new for you. but I can see your face. You're like in awe over, these things that are being built. It's just really wonderful to see because, as we mentioned, I think in our first episode, like people really shit on YA and they really shit on YA fantasy, but there's so much to it. And, the themes and everything is just, you can take a surface level, understanding of all of it, and then you can go deeper, and there's so many layers to it, and it's just really wonderful. And it's something that I just don't see in other books. I mean, I'm sure it's there, but
I don't know. I mean, where I came from with all of my contemporary fiction and romance and all that stuff, and it doesn't hit. Like, I don't walk away thinking of lessons learned. I just, let me power through 2 books a day now, for an easy rom-com. It doesn't stay with me. You're not thinking, you're not peeling back the layers. I think it's to what we've talked about maybe in our first episode, when it comes to saying what kind of books that you're into and in regard, what's your book genre? You have coworkers to say, like, what do you read? And we feel embarrassed to say YA, but there's such a depth to them that I haven't seen in anything else. Maybe like what's also really popular right now is like my godmother's really into, and I feel like a lot of people are like serial killers and serial killer podcasts and all that stuff. And that's really, I don't want to say trendy because I really liked Dexter, but that's just that's appropriate. But reading books that create this dialogue that we're having and peeling back the layers and encouraging feminism and totally saying, like, take ownership of your career, take ownership of your choices. And that was something that was really big in this book too, that I think Yrene pointed out with Chaol, is you can tell for somebody who was a commander, who was captain of the guard, who was used to giving directives, and she could say, like, this is uncharted territory for him because he was constantly taking a step back and saying, oh, he's giving me a choice here. He's giving me a choice of what to say here, how to handle the Coggin family. And that was uncharted territories for him. Like, I don't know, maybe compared to the other books that I've read, I don't see choice as being an inevitability.
That's a fair point.
But you'll get judged for reading these books with depth because they're considered quote unquote YA as opposed to a throwaway read. Throwaway adult read.
A throwaway like adult read. Yeah. And even, the like new adult books in the fantasy genre, they're still really good. I think I've mentioned Addie LaRue is fantastic.
That's next up.
Yeah. Oh, it's really good. That one will really stay with you for a really long time. It's just wonderful. So God bless fantasy because I get more out of it than I do, other books. I really used to love historical fiction. I still do to a certain extent, but it doesn't hit as hard.
It doesn't hit as hard. Like, like I still read the other books. I feel like now I read my other books as just to say, I got a book done. Like, just to help with like my Goodreads numbers, like my own competition with myself. I'm not as engaged as I used to be with them.
Well, because you have to put so much fucking time and effort into, connecting all of the dots in a series like this.
And I'm still connecting them because I know I randomly text you during the week and be like, wait, this just came, and it has nothing to do with, it's just like these little, and it's consuming not in a bad way. I really appreciate the conversations that are being had, especially with the awareness that's brought into this genre between, different social media platforms. I mean, Tumblr's always been around, and then you have, Bookstagram and Book Talk, especially Book Talk within, this quarantine time where people are like, well, how else are we going to use our time? Like, we might as well just, I guess we'll read and we'll binge TV. We'll just consume media, or, you take breaks from other things. And I think it's to see other people's perspectives. I know sometimes you will share your TikToks with me. I'll bombard you with memes that I'm finding that some of the accounts that we're following on our ACOFAE podcast Instagram, like, oh, I didn't think of this, or here's a nice reminder, or like you just like start spiraling. in different ways. I think that's kind of fun too. All consuming, not casual.
All consuming. We can't like anything casually, and that's fine.
I just say like, this is why am I this way? This is why I am. Click, bye.
You know, that's fine. As Marge Simpson says, it's good for the economy, and we're fine with that.
I don't want to, I'm not going to put a number out there, but I will say I've spent more money on books, my book habit than I have on Gaga tickets in the last year and a half.
And that is saying something. Wow.
That is saying something. And like, this is like to the person who does the early entry barricade tickets. Yeah, I think like I was like, how much did I spend on the tickets? And I go, okay. And I go, how much have I spent on books? And because it's not like I go, oh, I bought a book, because I've hustled hard. I mean, that the library has been my best friend, but with Sarah and having, and I got the audio, and I got the ebook, and I got the hard copy. Then I got the paperback copy, because those are different covers
with the sprayed edges. We need
and then I still need the sprayed edges. And then I just got the Waterstones copy of Crescent City, the paper version, just in case I can't get the sprayed edges hard copy German version. I don't have a number, but I knew it was over what I spent in concert tickets within the last year. Like I was just like, I wasn't doing it in overall of like comprehensive amount of what I've spent on Gaga, but the last year has definitely books reigned supreme, or bookish items. Even like all our merch that we've been, shout out to Blissfully Bookish, because I'm obsessed. I cannot wait till you have the jogger, the sweatpants. They are so comfortable. I'm gonna order another pair. I'm gonna do like the create your own pair to have another. I'm like, these are my work clothes now.
I'm very excited to get them. My poor mother in Phoenix is just getting all of these packages. She's like, what is this?
I want to see a picture of your room when you walk in February, just to see what it looks like. I just want to see where all the boxes are.
Boy, she says that she's put them in the closet, but there's already like so much shit in that closet just from stuff that I didn't bring with me over here. So I don't know what it's going to look like, but it is what it is. We're here for it. We love bookish merch. Awesome. So I think that's all I have to say about Tower of Dawn. How about you?
Same. I mean, for now, I feel like the next, like our final recap, I guess, with Kingdom of Ash, I'll start like making some more connect the dot stuff. For next week's episode, we're not going right into Kingdom of Ash, because I'm definitely giving myself some time to read. I know it's going to take a lot. We have work, but we are going to be going into a Cruel Prince, the Wicked King episode, which will be super fun and different. This is a reread for both of us, which we love Carden and Jude. There's the whole, now that the world building is done, the characters, I get to appreciate it more the second time around. And like with any reread, you pick up on things. And then there are other things where you're just like, girl, how did you not know?
God, I hate Taryn so much.
Well, nobody likes it. Like, no, like that doesn't change. She's like, that's its own conversation, because that's like when I defend Dean and then Sam just kind of keeps living his life. And I think, Sam, you do not deserve Dean as a brother. Like, that's how I feel with Jude and Taryn. Like, Taryn, step the fuck back. Like, you do not deserve Jude as a sister. Like, you are a shitty sister. Sit the fuck down. Like, I'm totally fine with Vivi and Jude just living their lives.
And that's a good segue for our next week episode. So make sure to join us as we shit on Taryn. And I would say kind of praise Elfhame. I know I have a lot to say about the details and how much I really like the narrator and how she helps me really get into the vibe of Elfhame. So join us for that next week. It'll be really interesting.
And please feel free to follow us on Instagram at ACOFAE Podcast, ACOFAE Podcast, just to kind of see what we have going on and snippets of future episodes and what we have going on and fan art and whatever we decide to post that week.
Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.
See ya. Thanks. Bye.